mud we can deal with. I really don't want to get struck by lightning or picked up by a tornado though, so kind of hoping to rule that out. Yikes.
We're headed this week to Saskatchewan, Canada, with team member Kenny Holding. I absolutely love hunting birds in Saskatchewan, so I really enjoyed this hunt. Now, when we were there, we had same everything, same weather, same temperatures. Kenny's hunt, not so much. Variations in temperatures and everything from sun to pouring snow. It looked like an interesting few days, and 6-year-old Dozer was right in the thick of it, bringing in the birds.
So I got a call back in July from a buddy, Matt Cowden, over in Joplin, Missouri, and he said he had an extra spot. Had room for me on his trip to Saskatchewan for this season. He's been going, I think he said this is his 6th year in a row, so he's kind of got it figured out. Been up there a few times, seen it when it's really good, seen it when it's kind of tough. It was tough again this year, according to him. I mean, we had a blast. We killed, I think, over 260 birds in 3 days.
I don't know how many of you have ever seen a field packed with 100,000 snow geese, but it's an incredible sight, and one that farmers would like to see greatly diminished. The weather was questionable the second day of the hunt, so the guys only set out GoPro cameras, but they still got footage of birds dropping. And there are pluses and minuses to going out with a guide versus doing it all on your own. Kenny talks about the scouting and connecting with farmers the sorts of things that you need to plan for if you're thinking about doing a self-hunt.
So after we got done hunting that pea field, we got some pictures taken, got everything tore down and put back in the bags, packed up in the trucks. Ended up taking off out of there, went back to the lodge and grabbed something to eat, and we elected to go scout that evening again rather than hunt because we'd hunted the 2 evenings prior and really didn't have anything found for an evening hunt. In the process of scouting, we found a big wheat field. It's cut wheat field that had probably close to 100,000 snows in it. There's a pretty good feed there, and then there was about 4 other feeds scattered within 2 miles of it. They were a little smaller, but in the area total, there's probably close to 300,000 geese. So we figured that'd be a good spot to start for the morning. We got up and went to that cut wheat field we'd scouted the evening before. You know, like we said, there was 4 or 5 different feeds around that one big feed of 100,000 plus. And that happened to be right behind a farmer's house. So we parked, we was able to drive out in the field and unload all our stuff and then park our trucks right there by his house. Short walk, maybe 200 yards out to the decoys. So that made it a real simple, real easy hunt. We got out there. The only bad part was it was really, really cloudy. We actually had good wind that morning. We just needed some sun, and we probably could have doubled what we ended up shooting. We'll play some of these GoPro clips for you. I just had it out because that's the morning they was calling for a chance of rain, going to snow and sleet. And I didn't want a chance having my camera set up out there and having that rainstorm come in. If it was just going to be snow, it wouldn't be quite such a big deal. But the looks of the clouds and the radar, we knew that rain was going to hit sometime. We was kind of crunched for time to begin with, so I elected to keep the camera in the truck and just run the GoPro. I think we ended up shooting 51 snows that morning, and 3 Canada geese and 1 duck. So we had a pretty good morning. I'd say that's probably an average hunt up there for us. A little better probably, but we shot most of these geese within 20 yards of our blinds. About 9:30 in the morning, these geese started bypassing us and landing in the field south of us. And it was a big field. It was probably 2 miles long and 3/4 of a mile wide. And by the time we got done hunting at 10:30 and picked up all our decoys, we drove over there and looked, and probably 85% of that field had geese in it. Nothing real tightly packed. But for geese to cover 3/4 of a mile by 2 miles, that's a lot of birds. We had more roll in, I guess, overnight and start coming to those feeds. But the one group hit the ground south of us and everything around flocked right past us, right to them. So that shut us down for the morning. So that's why we picked up and went over and checked them out. And we actually ended up calling and getting permission on that field and plan on hunting it the following morning.
Coming up, it might have only been 6 inches of snow, but it looks like the tundra. And even with the snow coming down, the guys had a really great setup. They had water, they had food, they had everything there that they needed to keep the birds coming in. You've got to love it when you're at the right place at the right time. And even though it's cold outside, and you've got birds coming in like this, you forget that you're freezing.
We woke up and looked outside, and there was close to 6 inches of snow on the ground. They'd forecasted about 1 to 2, so we knew it was going to snow. We really thought, you know, most of the time they shoot the predictions quite a bit higher than what you think. But I guess in Canada they don't mess around, and we ended up getting 6 inches of snow. So that made the next morning a little bit more rough. We actually ended up not hunting. Sat around and waited on that weather to break. It finally cleared up a little bit and the snow stopped for good, and we ended up going back out and looking a little bit. We found a pretty good chunk of mallards on this cattail slough next to the standing wheat field. When I say pretty good chunk, there's close to 20,000 ducks on there, if not more. So we found it the day before. We ended up going back and checking on them, and they were still there. We kind of wasn't sure if the snow might have pushed them out, but I think they ended up just getting on that water and riding it out. They had standing wheat that was all laid over, so they had plenty of food right there close. We ended up calling while we was back at the lodge cooking breakfast and getting permission on that. So about noon, we finally talked ourselves into getting out in the weather and going to see if we could kill those ducks. Anytime you find that many ducks in a place, it's going to be pretty good, especially when they're packed that tight on a little water hole. We was hoping that when we kicked them off to get in there to hunt, they wouldn't all bail on us, and luckily that wasn't the case. With the wind blowing, we had a few ducks kind of sail out on us that got winged on their last shot. When we'd go chase them down or the dog would bring them back, some of them might still be kind of crippled, you know, alive. And it was a good chance to test out our new finisher bird eradicator tool. And finisher's the name of it, and that is exactly what it does. If you can bend their heads over, there's a little crevice in the back of their head, and you can run the spike of that finisher right up in there and twist it like a key, and in a mere second or two, them birds are done.
We're headed back to the hunt in Saskatchewan, and the birds are still piling in. These guys were definitely on the X. I mean, one of the guys was out picking up birds and one flew right past him. This just looked like such an amazing hunt. I know these guys can't wait to go again.
We got packed up and out of there and back to the lodge to warm up a little bit. We was all froze to the bone. None of us were complaining though, because it was a pretty legit duck shoot. Like you said, most of us never had a duck shoot happen that fast, or if we did, you know, it wasn't those kind of conditions. Everything was about perfect. Well, that was a recap of my trip to Saskatchewan. That was my first trip, and I can assure you that it will not be my last. You know, God willing, it will not be my last trip. We already got our rooms booked for next year, and I told Matt, don't even worry about calling me and asking if I want to go, because I'm in. For the money, that trip was great. Really didn't have a whole lot of cost in it. You save a lot of money by not going with a guide. I'd recommend, if you've never been and you're trying to do it on your own, go with somebody that has been up there or knows a little bit about it, and that or pay a guide the first year and just kind of learn the basics. Getting across the border at first kind of seemed like a pretty big objective, but actually once you go through it, as long as your paperwork's lined up and, you know, I's are dotted and T's are crossed, you can get through pretty easy. It's you know, just be friendly with them. They don't joke around at all. So you wanna be up front with them, get through. But it's quite a sight to see up there. It's surely completely different than down here. Just huge expanses of land, more birds than you'd ever dream of seeing. I mean, I've been to Arkansas in the spring to hunt snows. There's a lot of birds down there, but just the sheer volume of birds everywhere. You know, you drive 5 miles and you find 300,000. You drive 5 more miles and there's 500,000. You drive 10 more miles and there's another 80,000, 100,000. It's just crazy. You know, like scouting, if we'd find 50,000 in a field, we'd probably just keep right on driving and not even worry about them. So there's not many places in the nation you can do that, especially in the fall. They're liberal limits. I mean, you can kill 20 snows a day, 8 ducks and 8 dark geese. I mean, that's a lot of trigger time. If you're like me, you like to shoot. It is truly a waterfowler's paradise. Land of the living skies, sure lives up to its name.